I'm ChosenArchitect, and this is All the Mods 9, and today we dabble with some blood magic, and we get into what is essentially a skyblock dimension, aka the Demon Realm. Hopefully you guys are ready. Now back in All the Mods 9 today, we are going to be starting something big, and I mean very big, and that is blood magic. Now, blood magic is kind of almost an entire mod pack in itself. It has hours upon hours of content built into it, including almost like an infinite dungeon that you can even gain access to. And we have to go all the way through this mod until we get to a usable tier 5 altar, which is sort of what you see laid out below me. Now, this monstrosity of a setup is basically the outline, like I said, of what the tier 5 altar will look like. But to get started with blood magic, really, we're just going to be utilizing this top section right here, this being the actual altar. So let's take a look at blood magic, and thankfully we get given this book, and also we have this beautiful quest line that allows us to go through it as well and help kind of ease the burden that is kind of understanding every little step that needs to be made. Now, I'm not going to be able to get through the entirety of this mod. This is actually going to be covered over multiple episodes, so be prepared for that. And not everything may be done all in one go, or it'll probably be separated throughout multiple episodes. But today, we're at least going to get started with the idea of how to actually gain blood. So one of the first things we're going to need is, well, we're going to need ourselves a blood altar. That is how we actually get started with the mod, believe it or not. And we place this down just like so. And this is pretty straightforward and simple. We have this little altar here, and we have no way of just using it yet. But if we make ourselves a sacrificial knife, well, we can poke ourselves a couple of times, and that, for some reason, puts blood into the altar. As you can see right here, we now have a little bit of blood in there. Now, I'm noticing something that's kind of interesting. It's dwindling out of here. That's a different mechanic I am definitely not used to. But it did dwindle out, which is kind of interesting. And does it keep doing that? It does. So notice I am currently harming myself, and notice my health is not going down. That's an interesting thing to keep in mind. And the reason why our health is not going down is because we currently have the Mahotsukai boundary of life that has been running. And we really haven't seen the effects of that in full play yet. But it really shows here. Now, I have never seen this dwindle. Maybe it only dwindles when there's very little in the pool. But if we keep filling this up, we can get this all the way to the max. And this is pretty efficient using this sacrificial knife. If you have some nice gear and you constantly have that regen effect, you're never going to worry about getting blood into this thing. And especially when we start to upgrade our runes that can go around it. Now let's go ahead and craft one of our first things, and that is by placing a diamond in here. This is going to consume and use some of that blood almost like its own life essence, and it is going to convert this diamond into an item. Now, these things take time. It's pretty slow without any rune upgrades, and this whole altar will ultimately control how fast this blood altar runs, but we can use some of our time. Notice I already have 21 hours built up in this, and this will make it go faster. I'm noticing here though, is it still losing blood over time? That is a mechanic I do not remember. But anyways, this weak blood orb, this is our first introduction into blood magic, and having something that's called a soul network, or a blood, I think it's called a blood network, something like that. So this is going to consume life essence and is going to store it into our own like network related to ourself. And so all of these orbs that you're going to craft within blood magic are going to be linked to each other, and they're all going to be connected to the same pool. Now we can't see that pool just yet, but that is going to be the next thing that we craft. It's going to give us the ability to see how much blood we actually have inside of our LP network. That's what it's called. LP network. We're storing ourselves up some life points. So yes, life points all the way. You can see I'm just right clicking. That's actually putting it into the system. But you can also click this on here, and that will also pull life points into it if there was room for it. Because I think with this weak one here, it doesn't hold a whole lot. So let's go ahead and venture into this even further. we need to start producing slates. And this is where I'm going to show you the first way to automate things in here. So slates are kind of cool. We're going to need stone, just a single piece of stone. And we need to basically place that in here one at a time, mind you, because you can place multiple items at a time. But this one piece of stone will eventually get converted into a slate, just like that. So these slates are what we're going to be using to craft these runes. And it's also going to use our orb that we have. And these runes are what we're going to use to upgrade. There's all kinds of different runes. For example, this is a speed rune that will speed this whole crafting process up without us needing to use a time in the bottle. And there's also things that will allow us to put more blood in, and also hold more blood. Sorry, I mean life essence, right? Life essence. Please don't demonetize me, YouTube, please. Now to automate this, let's actually get kind of creative. I'm going to use modular routers for this. And so right here, I can place a modular router. We can honestly place it in the floor. So let's go ahead and place it down here in the floor. And we're going to have two of these, one that's going to send and one that's going to receive. And these spaces right here that you're seeing me place these in are free to be able to be, you can place anything here. The only spots that really matter are where I have this polished dark stone, because that will get replaced later on, including these smooth stones, which will also be replaced in this current setup. So let's talk about this. We should be able to send stone. Now I do want to currently send stone. This may be modified later on. I'm going to hit the whitelist, and then I'm going to put the regulator in, and we're going to say only send or keep one of these in an inventory at once. Now you can send more than one, but it's going to take longer. And so it's going to take longer. And then there's the possibility of you putting like 10 in here and there not being enough LP. And that means once it runs out of a life essence, then you are going to be basically reversing the craft, which is kind of unfortunate. But that's how it works. So we don't want to put 10 in and then for some reason it drains all of the blood that remains, and then it can't even complete the craft. Because that will just be lost progress, and I don't want to do that. So we'll put the sender module in, and that's going to send one item in here. So if I put the stone, once we've clicked where we want it to send, for example here, that should now send one stone in, and then it's going to continue and start to process. Now over here, we are going to have a puller module, and we can also pull from the top of this machine. I don't think it really has a preference, but we're going to have to pull out the slates. And so I'll just set that up here, and then that's going to pull the slate out. And so this should allow me to start auto crafting. So I just place my stone in, it's only going to keep one at a time, and then it's going to start pulling the slates over here. And this is going to be one of the best ways of getting started. And then you're going to have to make sure that you're keeping your pull filled, because otherwise when you run out, it's just not going to be working. Now, while this is all crafting up, we should definitely start working on wills. And a way to get will, which is an entire crafting operation that you have to go through for blood magic. It kind of is cool, in my opinion. I really like this kind of craft. You basically kill mobs and you will collect this will. And the will is sort of like souls that fall off of them. And then you're going to use that inside of a Hellfire Forge. And Hellfire Forge is how you're going to craft, like I said, a lot of these items, including Tartaric gems, which are going to be very, very important to us as we continue on. Now, to first get started with this, before we can craft a sword that makes this easier, we're going to need to take some of this string and turn it into a snare. We're actually going to need more than one snare, actually. And I want to use these snares because this is how you get started. So you're going to use this on a mob, and then you're going to kill that mob, and then there's a chance that we will actually get ourselves one of these wills. So the way this works is we are going to snare a mob. So we click this onto them, and we're supposed to see some particle effects, or the potential of some particle effects like that. And as soon as we see them, then we can take them out. And by doing that, we get ourselves some will. And I don't know if this is going to be enough, but it might be just enough right now to sort of get us started. So we're going to use one of our blank slates to craft ourselves up a Hellforge. And this I'm going to go ahead and place down here for right now. And yes, this is going to use our will whenever we start doing some crafts. Now, one of the first things we want to craft ourselves is actually a Tartaric gem. So we're going to place these items in here, and that is going to use a little bit of our will that's currently stored inside of this and give us something that actually stores will. It's kind of interesting. But we also need to make another one because I want to be able to craft a sword that allows us to farm will. So a sentient sword is going to be what we need. And we need a little bit of will in here. I don't know how much exactly, but we do need this and also a sword. So let's go ahead and get a sword, like a regular iron one. And I believe, like, it doesn't really, I'm just going to make a plain one just to make sure. And let's see, is this going to be enough? It doesn't seem to allow me to place the petty tartaric in here. There we go. I had to manually place it. Oh, it does look like it's going to be enough. Okay, so this bar I don't think would move unless, okay, and there we go. And then do we have enough remaining? I think we do for another tartaric. So cool thing is with refined storage, you can just like click and bring the items directly in. What a nice mechanic there. And this is going to allow us to craft a tartaric. So the combination of this sword and a tartaric is what we actually want. And we're going to be making more than this tartaric because we're going to need to use these to kind of upgrade each other. So you see, this is a petty tartaric that is going to upgrade to the next tier and so on and so forth. And we sort of have to farm these will. So even using this will right here, if we were to just toss it on the ground, notice it has 2.16. Whenever we pick it back up, it's actually going to go in here. And now we have 2.16. So instead of being physical items, we will store all of our souls, or all of our will. I need to remember that, all of our will inside of this tartaric gem. And then of course we definitely want to upgrade this by adding some enchants to it and potentially God forging it. So now with my sword upgraded and Bane of Villagers on here to help take these guys out, I should be easily filling this up. I've already filled up my tartaric and just a blink of an eye. And so the progression begins with upgrading our tartaric. Basically, we're going to take this, upgrade it. Each time we are going to need a certain amount of will before we can actually upgrade. And there we go. So now we have this lesser tartaric. And so what we can do is we can fill this one and then use this tartaric to make another lesser tartaric, and then use that lesser tartaric to upgrade to the common tartaric, and then that common tartaric to make another set to keep going all the way up to the greater tartaric. It's a lot of tartarics. You know what? I'm tartariced out. So now that we've got an understanding of that, it's time to get a little bit more alchemical. Alchemical, I think is correct. Because we need to be able to peer into that network like I really wanted to. For example, our LP, so we can see how much is stored within us. So to be able to do this, we're going to need to take some blank slates. And as you see, all of this stuff now complete, which is really, really nice. And we're working our way. I should be able to make a common tartaric once we upgrade to the next tier, because this requires an imbue slate, which is level 3, which is going to be a little bit a ways away. So alchemical table, this is how we're going to be able to make arcane ashes. And so this is a pretty easy thing to get into. We just simply need to place down our table. Let's see, is it placed like that? There we go. Yeah, let's place this thing right here right now, keeping everything sort of in place. Now up here is where our current blood orb goes, and we need to make these ashes. And so this is just going to cost these ingredients. Let me see if I can pull this stuff in. Yes, I can. Perfect. Oh, it's so nice with refined storage allowing me to do that. So I don't have to individually search for everything, but I should be able to place this in like so. And just like the Hellforge, it's going to do the crafts, except I think this altar actually has some automation that you can do with it, allowing you to define the sides and stuff. But here's some arcane ash. Now this is pretty cool. This is one of the cool parts of blood magic that I really like, aside from the dungeon, because the dungeon is pretty cool, but that's going to be later on. It's this right here. So we're going to place down arcane ash, hit it with some redstone, and then also we're going to activate it with a blank slate. So let's go ahead and do that. We place this down. Hey, that looks familiar, right? Looks like the Mahot Sky stuff that we're doing. Very, very kind of similar magic, right? So we are going to need redstone. So let's place a redstone. That changes what this actually is. And then we're going to hit it with a slate. And then we get this really cool animation. I personally like stuff like this because I know there has to be a lot of work that goes into just that little animation there. And this gives us our first little sigil, and that is the divination sigil. And whenever we right click this, we can now see what our current LP level is. And it also technically lets you see what tier your altar is in the top left corner, which is currently covered. and then also how much is currently stored in there, how much life essence is in there. But we can actually see that with our jade, which is really nice, being able to see the level. But we can only peer into our LP network by clicking this and seeing how much is in there. So keep in mind your LP network, by the way, because some things use the LP. So some of the sigils will use LP constantly. Like you can, for example, have an infinite lava. And later on, we're going to have other things. And whenever you run out of LP, you will start to get some really bad effects like nausea. And it's constant. And you'll be wondering, why do I have nausea? And then you realize your LP network was run dry. Now, for us to upgrade to the next tier altar, it's quite simple. We just need some runes. So with a craft like this, with our blood orb in the middle, by the way, it doesn't use LP for these crafts. We are going to craft up 8 of these because we need to surround our altar with some of these. Now, currently, we haven't applied any sort of upgrade to these. So all we got to do is just simply take this and place the new ones in the place. And even with there being no like designated rune on them, it's still going to work, right? And so this is going to now upgrade to a tier 2, and we'll be able to see that with our sigil. It now on the top left has a number 2. So tier 2 in Roman numerals. So this doesn't, I don't think, hold any more buckets of blood or anything like that, because we haven't upgraded this in any way, other than the fact that it can now craft higher tier runes. What it does mean for us, though, is we can now craft the next tier blood orb, which is going to be the apprentice blood orb. And there we go. All we have to do is activate it by right-clicking, and now we'll notice that we can put more life points in, and you can see it's going up. I don't know exactly what the number is, the max number, but it will hit a cap yet again, just like our other one. And yeah, the higher tier we go up, the more current LP we'll be able to store. Now, in my case, the first thing I wanted to do was get some speed runes on here to speed this thing up. So I have these all speed runed out, and these apparently increase the speed by 20% per. And because I can constantly refill this very quickly, it makes making these slates a lot faster. As to be fair, this mod is basically at this point just a fancy clicker game. It really is. Click, 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 more blood. Now that I have a handful of slates, we can actually start turning these into tier 2 slates. So I'm going to take a handful of these, and this is going to allow me to make self-sacrifice runes. Now on this, I just need to tell it what runes to upgrade to. So blood magic, and then runes. Or actually, these are slates. And then we're going to move up to the next tier, which is the reinforced. And by putting that inside here, I can now put these in here, because this shouldn't have a filter, right? Or I guess it does have a filter, doesn't it? We actually don't need a filter. So we can just put anything in here, but it's only going to put one at a time. Hopefully. Okay, so when it comes to this, notice how it's just sending it right out. The way we prevent that is by removing this slate. And so we're going to have to kind of rotate these in and out to be able to get them to do what we really want them to do. But you'll see that now upgraded to the next tier. And this is what's going to allow us to make better runes. Now, ultimately, to be able to upgrade to the next tier, we're just going to need more runes, right? New runes, but we're also going to need, I believe, a cap up here. So we've got to get this all filled out to get to tier 3. And I believe this is just glowstone that we need to get to tier 3. So yeah, getting to tier 3 is not too bad. We just need 20 runes. And then this rune right here is self-sacrifice. This is going to allow me to, I think it's 10%, get a 10% boost in the amount of life essence we give every time we use this sacrificial knife. Now there's another one. This one is the Rune of Sacrifice, and if you have a mob farm above this, you can actually kill the mobs in the mob farm, and then that would actually fill up the blood altar, which is also not a bad route to go. That'll probably ultimately be how we automate this later on. Now to fully get this to tier 3, we now need to turn these smooth stones right here into glowstone, and then this should get us to a tier 3 altar, which is kind of important. If we look with our ritual here, our rune here, it now just upgraded in the top left to now 3. So we are now at a tier 3, meaning we can now also upgrade to the next tier blood orb. Like I said, kind of like a clicker game. We're almost like prestiging every time. But going up to tier 4 and 5 is a little bit different as this requires a full new set of mechanics to be able to get these capstones that we're going to need for the next tier. Now, it is at this current level when we have to start going down this route that we're going to be making our first ritual, and this is the thing that I'm excited about, getting into the dungeon. And this is how we're going to get this taiu fruit, then turn it into a saturated taiu fruit, and then go even further into making those caps that we're going to need for our tier 4 altar. So how do we get started with this? Well, we need to have made imbued slates, and we have to make ourselves a master ritual stone, which means we're going to need a master blood orb, which is the new orb, by the way. Not this one, actually. It's going to be the magician's blood orb, which is gold. It's going to cost quite a bit, so you're going to have to babysit this because our current LP is only 10,000. So you have to really babysit this thing until it uses a total of 25,000 LP to get to this, which is what I'm about to do. But once I have all of that made, this is where things get interesting. We're going to need some ritual stones. And by the way, right here, we actually get, oh, we got some demonic will. We actually get some rewards from this. This is like some blood magic boxes. But yeah, I'm going to have to make the ritual diviner. All of these, by the way, have their own crafting recipe. It is going to take a little bit for me to get this done, but I want to show you how to make this ritual to get into this dungeon. So after just a few crafts with all of the slates that I didn't even have to make any new ones, I am ready to go and actually start crafting our first ritual diviner. And then I've already made the activation crystal. So this is pretty easy to make and just requires a few items. So now one of the cool things I wanted to show is if you're trying to figure out how much you actually need for your ritual, set your ritual by doing this. You can hold down control and right click. Now for our case, we are looking for the hidden realm ritual. Now all these rituals are explained in the book, but the hidden realm is what's going to take us to that new dimension, which is another dimension. Yes, we're going to another dimension. It's going to be pretty cool actually. But what you can actually do to see how many runes you're going to need is just hold down shift and it will tell you I need a total of 36 runes. Now, because of the way this ritual diviner works, we don't really have to do anything crazy. We just need to have the runes in our inventory, much like we do right now. And I just cleaned out this area. So we have all of our ritual runes setting in here. And all we have to do is just right click and just click it. And it's going to automatically build the ritual for us. Now it's not activated just yet because to activate it, we do need to make sure that our LP network is filled. And I don't know the exact amount that's required, but if we don't have enough to activate this, which by the way, you click the master ritual stone, I think shift click or right click. It says you fill a push, but you are too weak to perform the ritual. And that is most likely because we just don't have enough LP stored up. Now, one way you can store it quickly is by placing it in here, and it's going to use the speed runes to take your current LP and put it into your soul network. So that's another quick way that you can get life points in there aside from just right clicking from this, especially if you have bonuses. I don't think you get those bonuses unless you are using your actual altar. Now, before we go to this dimension, there is something that I want to make, and that is going to be some keys. I think we can make up to 5 keys, it looks like. And I do need to put my Tartaric in here. And I believe this is what we need, right, to make the keys. Redstone block, 2 iron, and an imbued slate with a common or higher, which currently we have a lesser. So we do have to go one more tier up, which I do have everything prepped up for. And there we go. So this is now going to give us a common Tartaric. And something that I think we can do, by the way, is we can actually transfer into this by shift right clicking. And this allows us to transfer all of our current will into our common Tartaric. We still don't have enough because we're going to need 300 as a minimum to be able to craft these keys. So now we should be good to go to craft up some keys. So let's put this in here. Perfect. So we'll be able to craft up 4 keys. You need a minimum of 300 will. It's going to cost 50 will each to craft these keys. And we're going to want a couple of keys. Now, you should get a key whenever you go in. So at least you'll have an initial key, but this is a way that you can make sure to gather more keys and make sure you can open doors, because it is a dungeon where we're going to be unlocking new rooms and hopefully finding new locations, which is going to be kind of cool. I'm going to put all of these keys in my bag. and get ready to go on an adventure, because that's exactly what we're about to do. So let's open this portal. I should be now with over 50,000 life points inside of my orb. We check here. I have 54. I think that's enough. Let's go ahead and click. As you feel a push, but you're too weak to perform this ritual. Maybe you need 100,000. Now inside the book here, we have the Edge of the Hidden Realm, which is where we're about to go. And it does cost 80,000 LP. So I do need 80,000 life points stored inside here. And I'm currently at like 55. So perfect. Now that I have this enough stored up, we have 82,000 life points now inside of our Magician's Blood Orb. We should be ready to go. I just right click, a rush of energy. Oh, and here it is. This is the altar. And this is how we are going to travel in. And you just right click, and we are now inside of a new dimension called None. And yes, there is life essence on the ground. And this right here is what you would click to get back. In my case, I am going to make sure to add a waystone. And yeah, this is the edge. So we're just going to call it Edge for right now. And inside here, we do get a key. So like I mentioned, we do have spare keys, and you got to kind of pick and choose where you want to go. I have no idea, and you're not going to know what door to open. I'm going to open the door that we spawned in on, because technically, if you look at the map, nothing spawns in until you click this. And then you get a new door. And in our case, we get this. So yes, there's going to be a lot of chests, but we're looking for a chest that has this fruit. And thank goodness we found it on the first one. Oh, that's so nice. Now, there is more cool things to be found throughout these dungeons. So don't just like go, oh, this is not that great, right? We just made it into this first room and there's really nothing here. Oh, believe me, there's some really cool stuff, and there's some special ore that you can only find in this dimension. And if I remember correctly, that ore is demonite. So demonite is the stuff that you are going to need, I believe, later on, Hellforge-wise. So we are still going to have to find it, but for right now, this is going to have to be it for today. Okay. Maybe not the end. I almost got you there. Well, let's open like a couple more doors, at least. I'm really in the mood for like more dungeons. Oh, and this is a library. And yes, more of this fruit. This fruit is going to be super important as we have to set up a very specific way of farming it. Oh, and it's so nice that we just get this. Yes, and there are some pretty tanky mobs that will spawn in here if you're not careful. I wonder what this enchant is. Fire protection. Very nice. We get some extract, some nether wart I will take. There's all kinds of like weird things that we're going to come across in here. This chest has a blood magic experienced tome. But definitely this fruit is what we want. All right, let's open another door. Another library. Very nice. I'll just take as much of this as I can. Like, and there are like entire corridors, by the way. And we could also get lucky and find ourselves more keys. So I believe if we're super lucky, we can get more keys. It just all depends. I don't really need the will or anything like that. All right, one more door. And it's this one right here. Okay, and I think, interesting, I don't see any other corridors. Did this room, one of these rooms have another door that leads off? This is an eye. Are we able to use an eye on that? Did this side have another door? Because there should be a way to keep expanding over and over again. And I don't see another passageway. It's like we ended up getting 4 rooms that don't have any expansion on them. You know what? That might be because of this particular realm we're in. It's not the only one. Maybe I'm getting confused and I'm thinking of the other realm, the other dungeon. There's another one that's very similar to this. That is the one that's more like an infinite dungeon run. Yes, I believe it's the demon realm, which we don't have access to yet because I think it requires the dusk Ritual Diviner, which is the next tier up. And I believe that is the one that is sort of the infinite dungeon runner. But something to note about this dimension that we are currently in is it's kind of neat. This right here, believe it or not, is a sky block. So yes, you could essentially tear this whole thing down and just use it as a sky block dimension. That's pretty cool. Now, another weird bug to note is while doing this, I am actually getting random things from coral tombstones from breaking this stone. I don't know if this is a feature or intended, but I am getting random coral tombstone items from breaking these small bricks. What a weird interaction. So now with that, I'm definitely going to have to call it here. And I hope you guys enjoyed this little bit of blood magic. Now we still have way more important things to do to get further into this mod, because ultimately we have to get to the last tier. But I think getting to tier 4 is harder than getting to the last tier. The only thing that's holding us back from the last tier would be just simply making enough slates. But guys, if you did enjoy, be sure to click that subscribe button if you haven't already, and also give this video a huge thumbs up. There is a lot more amazing adventures to come, and I hope you guys are ready. And the best way to show the support is by clicking that subscribe button and commenting down below. Guys, it's now time to thank the amazing supporter of today's episode. And that amazing thanks is going to go out to Helor Gaming. Thank you so much, by the way, for your amazing support over on the Discord, becoming a Discord premium member, and supporting me in one of the best ways possible, and absolutely going above and beyond. Thank you so very much. And guys, if you're looking to join the Discord, all you gotta do is go to discord.gg/ChosenArchitect and join the amazing crew today, or just check out the links down in the description below. I thank you guys so very much. And if you have any tips related to blood magic, let me know down in the comments. And guys, it's that time. As always, thanks for watching. Bye.